Welcome back to Train Simulator 2015. In this video I'm going to play a German route in the Munich to Garmisch system, and it is a route that uses the Ice-T train, and this is going to be a route that demonstrates a lot of examples of the systems you would encounter on German rail, and we are in an ICET train near Munich, and you recognize this system over here, which is the wash station, and this is rush hour madness. Before watching this video, to really understand what's going on, I recommend you watch PTG Rail's
AFB
tutorial on German routes. It's a very well put together, detailed explanation of how all the systems and signals work on trains, and including the PZB, LZB, AFB, SIFA, all the systems and how they work and what they do. So this will be a good scenario which demonstrates most of those systems. There is no LZB on the Munich to Garmisch scenario pack, sadly, but the PZB system is definitely working, and this route will give you a good example of some of the nuances and how to work your way through that system and make sure it works. So right away we actually have a dwarf signal indicating red, so we will need to come to a stop. On the ICE trains, the brake system is operated using semicolon and quotation. Some trains it's with the throttle, but this train it is not. Good practice to go to 0 when you're stopped, and we are waiting for some trains to pass into the station. Should be one coming up on our left side here. I'm waiting for it. There it is. So as you can see, since the 85 is lit, this is in fact a Ober train. If the 70 was lit, we would be a Mittlere train, and if 55 was lit, we would be an Untere train. And that basically means the speed capabilities and braking capabilities of the train are designated within the PZB's programming. And all PZB is a system that makes sure you are slowing down when you're supposed to. If it detects that you're not slowing down when you're supposed to, or stopping fast enough, it'll help you in the form of screaming at you and applying the emergency brakes. Always a fun time. I'm also, as I said before, running this route with SIFA. As you can see, we are now clear to proceed, so we can go ahead and get moving again. Whenever you start moving, just like as explained, you need to remember to free yourself from the restriction. And all that is a way of you telling PZB, hey, I'm aware that I am in control of the train and am under the rules of the signaling system. So it acknowledges you that you are paying attention to the PZB system being activated. If you don't acknowledge it, when you reach 45, and if you keep going above 45, you will need to, it'll apply the emergency brakes to tell you, hey, you should have been paying attention. Acknowledge the fact that you are in control of the PZB system. Another thing you can do is just wait for it to expire, which is, takes a while. But in this case, we don't even have to worry about it because we're limited to 40 kilometers an hour anyway. So as we pull into the station here, we will need to slow down to 30. And SIFA is a dead man switch. All it does is come on every 30 seconds, and you have to acknowledge it. Tells the train that you're still in operational control. You haven't fallen asleep. And the SIFA light will light up a random period of time, usually between 20 and 40 seconds between between times you confirm it. It's not always 30 seconds. It does randomly change the amount of time that passes, which is kind of annoying. And when the light turns on, you have 4 seconds to acknowledge it, and then you have 2.5 after that. When you start hearing it, if you don't acknowledge it by the 3rd time you hear the word SIFA, the emergency brakes will come on. Usually that's what happens to me. Like I won't see it because it's such a small little white light down here that I'll just say "oh crap" when I hear it going off. Usually what happens. So we go ahead and slow ourselves down here. Make sure you have more room than it looks like to stop here. Just stop as soon as you see the bumpers start to go underneath. And we can let our guys on. And now, since we're at the main Munich station, we actually have to go ahead and switch sides. So we'll turn off our systems, put ourselves at neutral, and we'll press Control plus to switch sides. And then once you're on this side, of course, you can reactivate SIFA, reactivate PZB, and wait for the passengers to board. Another thing I'm going to do is turn on the lights to a setting a little bit brighter. I think 3 should be good. The lights on this train are kind of weird. They have like 5 different settings, but when you have it on 3, your lights will look like, they'll look like that, and the lights on the back of the train will be red. So now we're correctly oriented and ready to go here.
AFB. AFB.
So we already switched cabs, take the brakes off, go ahead and bring the speed up, and we are on our way. So again, the speed limit inside of the track is 30. So we have the AFB set to 30. And we can, again, acknowledge or release ourselves from PZB restriction. We have a clear shunting signal. Adjust my view here. And then we have a green over yellow, which is indicating a speed limit of 40. There's actually a permission to increase your speed to 40, which you cannot do until the back of your train has passed it, hence why we are still in a 30 zone. And you notice that we're actually going 5 kilometers an hour or so slower than the speed limit. That is the IFB system's buffer. It puts in a safety buffer of about 4 or 5 kilometers an hour. Just in case you're like on a downhill slope when the system's activated and the train speeds up a little bit, it has time to react to keep you in the speed limit without pushing you past it. So if it was right up against it, there wouldn't be enough time for the system to react to the train speeding up from going down the hill that it would overspeed. So that's why it puts that little buffer in there. Unfortunately, the way they have a lot of the scenarios programmed in Train Simulator, some of them are hard enough that it requires you to really push your speed up to the speed limit. And if you don't, you'll end up being late. And that'll actually happen on this scenario, but I tend to not really mind when that happens. I tend to blame the programmer. They need to account for the fact that you can't go all the way up to the speed limit because of systems like this. So that's the way I like to look at it. So we're coming out of Munich here, doing nice little shunting. It's kind of cool when you don't really know which track you're going to go on. It just kind of rail traffic controllers kind of just set the switches and make sure the train is on a clear path out. And you kind of just got to keep an eye on the HUD to watch for your speed increases, because this track right here is not a speed limit of 40, it's actually 60. But you wouldn't know that unless you had a track diagram. And here, you go up to 60. So it's reasons like that I don't really like driving without the the HUD, because I want to know what my speed limits are. And here you see this 12 sign. That's our speed limit of 120. As you know, you multiply by 10 to get the correct speed. So back of the train is now passed, so we can go ahead and speed on up. And I can do that a little earlier because it takes time for the AFB to register that you've selected a speed and apply the increase. Interesting thing about the PZB system is that it activates no matter what signal you get if it's not clear. It doesn't have to be a yellow signal which is warning you that the next signal can be red. It just has to be a non-green signal, and basically the rule states that it's making sure that you slow down to, you know, at least 85 kilometers per hour whenever that happens, because if you get a non-green signal, the speed limit you slow down to will always be no more than 80. So you have to take action, and that is basically, you know, making sure that you take the appropriate action and are slowing down enough before you actually get to the next signal. So when in doubt, slow down to 80 or 85 and you'll be in compliant with PZB. So right now we're actually coming up to another speed limit. We're coming up to a 90 kph, but there's no signage that says that's coming. You just kind of have to know it's going to be there. So we're going to start slowing down now. And basically as soon as I see that hit 95, I'm going to continue slowing down. And as you can see, the next signal is actually going to be indicating. See, there's the 9, we just passed it, but here's a double yellow. So as you go over the signal, again, you need to hold down. The correct action is to hold down page down right before you pass the signal and then let up. And right as we passed the signal, we actually got an indication of what the speed limit was going to be at the next signal, which means that the next signal kicked over to a non-red indication. And it is a speed limit of 60. So best practice to do here is, even though you know that you're not going to be needing to slow down and stop because you saw that double yellow, the correct procedure is to continue slowing down to 60. Since you had a double yellow, which means the next signal could be a stop, the correct process is to continue slowing down. However, you will see up ahead, before we hit the magnet for 500, that the signal is yellow. Because it's not red, you are free to acknowledge or release from system control. However, this signal is yellow, and remember, now that it's a yellow signal, you have to acknowledge it. So again, as you pass the signal, which is for 60 kph, you hold down page down and release. Now you're under control again. You're under the requirement that you will need to slow down and stop before a red signal. And you have to know this all the while remembering to acknowledge your SIFA. So a lot of multitasking going on. As we approach the station, I'm going to go ahead and cut my power in my reverser. Entering the station now. As you pass over the 500 Hertz magnet, you don't need to acknowledge it, but you do need to start slowing down. You need to get below 45 within 153 meters, which is not a lot of distance. So we actually do need to come to a stop at this station, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. One thing you want to be careful of is when you have a red signal like this, you don't want to acknowledge or release anything. You don't want to hit that free and end button, because you really want to make sure that you are aware that, you know, the signal is red and you're going to abide by that rule. The only time you ever want to hit that release button is when you know the next signal is not red. So this is going to be a few minutes here, so I may cut out some time here. Okay, we're back, almost ready to go, so we'll go ahead and full forward. Now the train actually pulled into the station here, loading some passengers up. So they're heading on out of here. And so will we. So here we go. So as you can see, the next signal is indicating a 6 and a yellow, so we can go ahead and speed up to 60. But before we reach 60, we will need to remember to free ourselves from that regulation. And again, we need to acknowledge because it is a yellow signal. Same rules apply here. Be ready to slow down. But because we're below 65, we have to take no action until we see a 500 Hz signal. Or we can see that the signal ahead is in fact not red and hit the free release button. Doing better than usual at catching the SIFA lights when they happen. Usually it's like I'm hearing it yell at me before I hit it. So the signals are the magnet lights off, so let's see if we can see the signal before. I believe I do see it. It looks like it's yellow. But we don't know what signal applies to us now. Now I see a flashing green signal, and that is our signal, so before we hit the magnet, we can go ahead and hit release. And that is telling us that there is an approaching continuous speed limit of 60, so we will hold here. And this signal has a white number 6 for 60. This is actually where the track splits up between Munich going to Augsburg and Munich going to Garmisch. And we are no longer under a 60-mile-an-hour speed limit, so we can go ahead and increase to 100. And the only reason I knew that is because of what's down here. We just passed a 12, which means the speed limit is increasing to 120. But we need to wait till the back of the train to pass, and we can go ahead and increase. Next few signals will be green. So here's an example of how it says we're going to be late and the time keeps increasing. It's expecting us to be right at 120, which is just not realistic. Okay, so we have a upcoming signal here that's not... see, I let go the button when I was SIFA-ing, so I had to make sure to press it. So now we gotta slow down. Slow down to 85. Actually slowed down kind of late here. I wonder if I'm gonna make it in time. I did. Very good. So this magnet, second magnet already passed and it didn't activate yet. But we can see that it is a flashing green, or it is a green light, so we can release. But it is a speed limit of 60, so I screwed that up. I want to lose some points here. I didn't start slowing down, so I just keep slowing down. There was an indication on that warning signal up there that it should have been 60, so I lost 58 points by not doing that right. Very easy to become distracted when driving German trains. So we are now transferred over to the next track, and you can see the speed limit's actually 160. But now we have a 140, so we'll set it to 140. See a nice little tilt of German trains as they go around corners. Here's those countdown boards that tell you when you're approaching a distance signal. And you can see this is a rectangular signal, but it's actually a distance signal. And you know that because I had the countdown boards before it. There's a nice view of our train going by. Gotta be careful when you do that because you can miss a SIFA. Another green signal. So here we have a speed limit of 60 approaching, but the annoying thing about this, as an ice train swishes by really nice, there isn't an indication to slow down for this 60 zone. So again, if you didn't have the dashboard down there, you wouldn't know that you had to slow down. Basically, the timing I use here to slow down is as soon as I see the distance signals, I start applying the brakes. And this should be just enough to get there. So I'm going to go ahead and go all the way here. So you got the flashing green light indicating the speed change, and you don't have to acknowledge anything with this because you're already at the right speed. But if the signal goes off, it's a good idea to always hit the page down button. Because if you don't within 2 seconds after hearing it, you will get penalized. This speed slowdown is actually because of the upcoming station, which just is kind of a curvy track, so it's a good idea to make sure you are going a slow speed through there, that's all. So we can release because the next signal is again a flashing green, not a stop. And we have an 8 for 80. And a 12 for 120. That sound was the futuristic German railroad stop signal sound. This part coming up is annoying to me because we didn't get an indication earlier for the 60 zone. We are going to get an indication for this tiny 10 kilometer per hour slowdown to 110, and that indication is right here next to the signal. There it is, the 11 on the triangle. But it's so far away from it happening that it's not really worth slowing down until we get right up to it. Here's the 11. So you're on a little decline downhill now, and it's having to brake to keep us from hitting 110. Flashing, and that's for 60. So I'll have to remember to slow down to 60 as we get closer here. Speed up to 110. And again, see right now it says we're going to get there early, but this number keeps increasing because we are not going exactly 110. And we'll end up getting there late. That was kind of a cool shot. It's annoying how loud that is. See, now it says we're late. 7:54.
SIFA.
I don't know what the German rules indicate, but I sound my horn whenever I see an intersection. It's a big thing in the US. You gotta like honk your horn like 40 times in a specific pattern to indicate that you're coming up to a crossing. Like 4 separate times, a long, long, short, long. I showed that in the other video. And at the bottom you see we have a 100 speed limit coming up. But we're going to find that that's definitely irrelevant. As you can see, we now have a signal ahead indicating something other than clear. So get ready to acknowledge it and start slowing down already. It is a pending 60. Showing that it will be 60, so again we'll need to slow down to 60 before we hit the signal. There we go. And again, since it's indicating 2 yellows, it means that the next signal will be red, so we need to re-acknowledge it. And now we are subject to the rules of PZB for a red signal, because the next signal is red. And we know that because we saw a double yellow approach. Diagonal yellows mean red up ahead. So in fact we can see that the signal up ahead is red, so we should not acknowledge, or we should not release from the system. We can't release from the system. Doing so would be illegal. And I've already tested it. See how the light went out now? Even if I were to release from the system, it would be illegal. So we will, at this point, allow the signal to indicate 500 Hertz, and we will start coming to a stop in the station. We will let our passengers off, and this scenario is complete. I may have gotten a silver star this time. We will see if I get enough points, because I did arrive a little late due to following the rules, and unfortunately a lot of scenarios in the German packs are like that, where they don't account for you using the system. Time to grab some coffee. So I did not quite get silver, but that's okay. So next time we will try doing a scenario with the LZB system. Catch you next time.